the case of the Bahar Dar passengers. I would like to share with you the motivation and reasons behind a petition targeting Ethiopian Airlines titled Rejection of Discriminatory Practices by Ethiopian Airlines. This petition references a case on January 24, 2007, when Henok Bayana, Ruk'a Tesfaye, Yosef Tesfaye, and Elsa Zetaos, known as the Bahar Dar passengers, were denied boarding on a flight from Bahar Dar to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. The terms or the details listed within this petition explain how the decision to deny these passengers boarding is considered discriminatory. Full discussion and details can be found on esai.org and on gopetition.com on the petition titled Rejection of Discriminatory Practices by Ethiopian Airlines. What I want to do at this point is give an answer to some of the questions that have been asked regarding the motivation and reasons behind this petition. First of all, I would like to cover the question on why the word discrimination. So let's work around the word and look at what happened and see if you do not also agree that the acts were discriminatory in nature. On this flight, there are 21 passengers at the gate. Now, in order to break them down in terms of who boarded and who was denied boarding, we're going to look at some considerations for boarding privileges. Right now, we do not have Ethiopian Airlines official policy in terms of oversold flights or overbooked flights, and we do not have any policy in terms of customer service and customer rights. So I'll just follow the same scenario that the passengers went through in actuality there in Bahar Dar on the day, January 24th, 2007. 21 passengers, all have boarding passes, so we'll say that all are qualified to fly, all holding passports, and looking at the terms of whether we should look at everyone the same as tourists, simply using Ethiopian Airlines as their preferred mode of transportation domestically. You'll have, of the Bahar Dar passengers listed or referenced within the petition, 2 hold American passports and 1 holds a Canadian passport. And then for the other passengers who did board, they all hold foreign passports. So look at in terms of currency or money held as tourists, the 2 with American passports hold American dollars as well as Ethiopian birr, and the other passengers as tourists also have foreign currency. So the only way to divide up the 21 passengers into the groups that ended up boarding and the group that ended up not boarding is if you look at their heritage. Of the 17 that boarded, 13 were from France and 4 from America. Of the 4 who were denied boarding, 2 live there in Ethiopia and 2 live in America. But if we look at their national heritage, 4 were Ethiopians by national origin or heritage, and the 17 were non-Ethiopian. Now, a decision to give service based on national heritage would be considered discrimination. If you're not comfortable with the word discrimination, discrimination can also be called a violation of individual rights. According to Ethiopian Airlines, it's also a violation of Ethiopian Airlines policy, but we can only assume until we see the actual policy. A lot of people voice that they've also experienced some types of customer service discrepancy. So a lot of times a question would be phrased, what about if blank was that discrimination? The first point is we do not compare this situation with anyone else's experiences, with anyone else's cases or situations. We can only isolate this one incident and speak on the facts of this one case and expand on that to speak on whether or not this is a problem faced by other passengers. Within the petition, we also mentioned that this is not only a problem that we see within Ethiopian Airlines, but throughout the country, throughout our nation in Ethiopia, in different modes of service provided, from other businesses, entrepreneurs, and even in some services provided through the government offices. So it's not only to target Ethiopian Airlines, but to speak on this larger problem. But the door was open for us through this single incident. We do not claim that this situation or this incident is any worse than what others have experienced. And continuing on that, we do not cover all of the other types of customer service discrepancies that have been mentioned to us, such as damage to luggage or lost luggage. This petition doesn't cover those other forms of customer service discrepancies, and we do not attempt to speak on behalf of other people who have experienced these situations. In short, there is still a lot of room for improvement in the area of customer service. Another question is, why would you do this to Ethiopian Airlines before the millennium, after receiving a major award? I can only say it is not my fault that discriminatory practices took place to my family this close to the millennium. The passengers mentioned were my brother, my mother, my uncle, and his wife. So there's nothing within our control in terms of when this incident takes place and the occurrence of the Ethiopian millennium, also considered to be the African millennium. I cannot postpone the petition or dealing with this case until after the Ethiopian millennium, because celebrations will take place all year long. It will be considered the year, the Ethiopian millennium, and activities will take place throughout the year. So to postpone this out a year, there's nobody within Ethiopian Airlines that will take our complaint seriously if we present it a year after its occurrence. And final point, I understand that Ethiopian Airlines has won the African Airlines of the Year in 2006. This is a major award for which we're very happy and proud of our national airlines for receiving. I'm also aware that Ethiopian Airlines is adding more aircraft to increase the number of passengers that they carry and also increase the revenue that they will produce annually, and we see this as another growth factor and a positive accomplishment by the airline. I support and look forward to my next flight on Ethiopian Airlines.